Strines Print Works, situated in the foothills of the Pennines near Stockport on the boundary of Derbyshire and Cheshire. Fabric for printing is delivered to the works in bales of grey or loom state cloth. The bales themselves have their origins abroad, possibly the Far East, and have been transported by ship, perhaps to Marseille. From there, they can be routed overland to Britain for printing, reflecting the truly international aspect of today's textile business. The bales are opened in the grey cloth store, examined for quality, and the length of each individual piece, usually about 100 meters, is recorded. The cloth is now ready for processing in accordance with the instructions from the owners of the fabric, namely our customers. These instructions are programmed into our computer, resulting in the production of all the working documents required for the passage of the cloth through the works. At the same time, information relating to the required design, color recipe, and print technique is being retrieved from the library in the colorist's office. Now the processing of the cloth can begin, starting with its allocation from the grey cloth store. The fabric is laid down with the ends pulled out and marked with the works order number prior to sewing. Before sewing, the ends are prepared by tearing them to ensure that the join will be straight across the piece. The sewing used is a type of flat blanket stitch, so as not to damage machinery with which it comes into contact, such as the rollers and bowls of mangles and calendars. Sewn together in one long length, the whole order now can be handled in bulk. The first treatment for most fabrics is singeing on both sides in a gas flame to remove any fine hairs from the surface. Such hairs create problems for the printer, often detaching themselves and blocking the engraved design on the printing screens. Immediately after singeing on the same machine, the cloth is impregnated with scouring and bleaching chemicals. After this impregnation, the cloth is rotated in open width or batched as shown, usually overnight, during which time the scouring and bleaching action will proceed to completion. Following the bleaching, many fabrics are washed in open width and mercerized by impregnation with a strong solution of caustic soda, whilst being stretched to maximum width on a stenter frame. Once the cloth is held under tension, the caustic solution is diluted with hot water from a weir. The excess being removed as the fabric passes over a suction plate. At the end of the mercerizer, the material again is rolled up or batched and taken to another washing range for a final rinse before being dried. The hot effluent from these preparation ranges helps to warm up the incoming clean cold water via a heat exchanger before passing into the effluent plant. Here, it's aerated, chemically treated, allowed to settle, and ultimately returned to the river as clean water. An alternative washing process is with the fabric in rope form. And here you see such a machine in operation. After passing through the washer, the cloth is opened out ready for drying. As well as being of the correct width, it's important for the subsequent printing process to have the weft of the cloth at right angles to the warp. This device, at the end of the stenter, produces a faint moire pattern as the cloth passes underneath, and the shape of this pattern informs the operator of the condition of the weave. Now, for the first time, color enters the picture. Dye powders or liquids are weighed accurately prior to being added to and thoroughly mixed with a prepared viscous solution containing all the chemicals and auxiliary products necessary for the printing process. Each color in a design is applied to the cloth via an engraved pattern contained on a screen or roller, one for each color in the design. The engraving process is shown here using a blank nickel mesh screen. The screen is coated with a light-sensitive emulsion, which is allowed to dry. The design, in positive form, is wrapped accurately round the screen and the whole thing is exposed to ultraviolet light for 20 minutes, which renders the emulsion hard and insoluble. However, directly underneath the design, where the light has not penetrated, the emulsion remains unpolymerized and can be washed away, leaving behind an image of the design on the screen. The screen then is immersed in development liquor, usually water, washed off, finally inspected, and cured in a heated cabinet before use on the printing machine. As mentioned earlier, information relating to the required design, the color recipe, and the print technique has been provided from the library in the colorist's office. This is checked by the printer before the color arrives. Then, with the cloth prepared and the screens in position on the machine, the color is transferred via a pump to the screen. Here, the cloth is being printed with the green color that you saw being prepared earlier. This is another model of a rotary screen printing machine about to print a multicolored furnishing style design. Down go the printing heads into contact with the cloth, and color is squeezed through the screens onto the fabric. A new technique involves the use of foam, rather like thick shaving foam, in place of the normal high viscosity paste. This process still is being developed, but shows considerable promise of providing good quality with cost advantages. After use, all screens must be washed immediately. Careful washing is essential if damage to the thin nickel cylinder is to be avoided. An alternative printing technique to the recently developed nickel mesh rotary screen involves the traditional copper roller, now confined largely to specialist end uses. The design is engraved onto copper cylinders, which then are chromium plated to protect the soft copper surface from damage. The rollers are sited round the central cylinder of the machine, each color in the design being applied during a washing operation. Now ready to print, the cloth is pasted down to the back gray with a thin layer of gum, and printing color is fed to each color box as required. After printing, the cloth requires further processing to fix the colors and then remove the thickening together with the now unwanted chemicals that were used in the printing operation. Fixation is usually achieved by raising the temperature of the fabric, either in a steam chamber or in a baking stove. Here, the cloth is being fed into a loop steamer, which gives 10 to 15 minutes process time at temperatures up to 180 degrees Celsius. Next, the cloth is washed and dried either in open width as shown here or in rope form. After this, the cloth can be impregnated with chemical liquors formulated so as to build into the fabric whatever special properties are required for its future life, a process called wet finishing. For instance, crease resistance and other easy care properties, water repellency for outer garments, or fire retardancy in certain cases. After impregnating, usually by a pad mangle, the cloth is fed into a stanter and given an appropriate heat treatment to complete the process. A dry finishing process may also be used. An example of this is raising or brushing, in which the surface of the fabric is lifted to a nap by the use of metal carding rollers. Here you see such a machine giving a woolly handle to a cotton viscose winter weight fabric. Now the fabric can be inspected before packing. Here the operative refers to the order sheet for making up instructions and inspects the fabric for faults either arising from defects in the cloth itself or from the printing and finishing processes. Minor faults are marked with plastic tags. Green for cloth faults, red for printing and finishing faults. Major faults would be cut out completely at this stage. Finally, to the packing machine, in which the roll of cloth is cased in polythene, which is heat sealed and shrunk into position by passage through a heated tunnel before being loaded for delivery to a customer's warehouse, garment maker or retail store. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour around Strines, which has shown you some of the processes that we use in bringing drab loom-stayed fabrics to life, relying on design, color, and above all, the skills of the people who work here in keeping the market supplied with its ever-changing fashion trends.